Russia's been screaming about their unstoppable hypersonic missiles for years. Kinzhal, Zircon, Avangard, names that sound like Bond villains, weapons that supposedly move so fast they're impossible to intercept. Putin's been waving them around like a kid showing off new toys, claiming they can penetrate any defense system on Earth, the ultimate flex. But here's the problem. Ukraine's been shooting them down with Patriots. And now, Britain just announced they're building something that might be even more terrifying. Not hypersonic, not flashy, just brutally effective, dirt cheap, and designed specifically to give Russia nightmares. It's called Project Nightfall, a ballistic missile that can be built for under $1 million, launched from the back of a truck, and strike targets over 500 kilometers away before Russian air defenses even know what hit them. No American export controls, no political strings attached, just pure British engineering designed to flood Ukraine with long-range strike capability that Russia absolutely cannot counter. So today, we're breaking down the ultimate missile showdown. Britain's rapidly developed Nightfall system versus Russia's vaunted hypersonic arsenal. Who's actually winning this technological arms race? And why is Russia suddenly looking a lot less confident about their unstoppable weapons? Let's dive in. Here's what you'd expect. Russia, with decades of missile development experience and massive defense budgets, should be dominating the long-range strike game. They've got hypersonics that travel at Mach 10. They've got nuclear-capable platforms. They've got weapons Putin personally unveiled as game changers. Meanwhile, Britain hasn't built a ballistic missile in decades and is supposedly playing catch-up. But here's the reality that's going to absolutely flip your understanding of modern weapons development. Britain's Nightfall program went from concept to development contracts in less than a year, with plans to deliver operational missiles within 12 months of contract award. Russia's hypersonic programs, they've been in development since the 1980s, cost billions of rubles, and are now getting intercepted by American Patriots operated by Ukrainian crews trained at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. The entire narrative about Russian missile superiority is collapsing in real time, and Nightfall represents Britain doubling down on a completely different approach. They're not trying to build the fastest missile, they're building the most practical, most producible, most economically sustainable long-range strike weapon, specifically optimized for the Ukrainian battlefield. And the specs are honestly wild. Production rate of 10 missiles per month. Maximum cost of £800,000 per missile, that's barely over $1 million. Launch from any suitable vehicle, fire multiple missiles in succession, and be gone in minutes before counter-battery fire can respond. Resistant to electronic warfare, GPS jamming, and all the tricks Russia's been using to degrade Western weapon effectiveness. This isn't about matching Russian capabilities. It's about making them irrelevant. So let's break down exactly why this matters, and why Russia's hypersonic advantage might be the biggest military myth of the 21st century. Let's start with Russia's hypersonic arsenal, because we need to separate propaganda from reality. And trust me, there's a lot of propaganda to cut through. Russia has three main hypersonic systems they love to talk about. Avangard, a hypersonic glide vehicle mounted on ICBMs, Kinzhal, an air-launched ballistic missile, and Zircon, a naval cruise missile. Putin unveiled them in his 2018 State of the Nation address like they were Russia's secret weapons that would change everything. The Western media ate it up. Russia's unstoppable hypersonics. Weapons that can't be intercepted. NATO has no answer. Except here's what they don't tell you. Hypersonic doesn't automatically mean better. Let's start with Kinzhal because it's the most used and arguably the most overhyped. Russian media claims it's a revolutionary hypersonic weapon traveling at Mach 10 with unmatched maneuverability. Reality: it's a modified Iskander ballistic missile strapped to a MiG-31 fighter jet. That's it. It's not using exotic scramjet technology or anything revolutionary. It's literally just a tactical ballistic missile launched from an aircraft instead of from the ground. And here's the kicker. Ballistic missiles have been traveling at hypersonic speeds since the 1950s. Every ICBM, every medium-range ballistic missile, they all reach hypersonic velocity during flight. That's just physics. Calling Kinzhal hypersonic like it's some breakthrough is like calling a car wheeled transportation technology and acting like you invented something new. But the real embarrassment for Russia came in May 2023, when Ukraine shot down a Kinzhal using a Patriot air defense system. Putin had claimed these missiles were impossible to intercept. Ukrainian air defenses proved that was complete nonsense. Since then, Ukraine's claimed multiple Kinzhal interceptions. The supposedly unstoppable wonder weapon getting swatted out of the sky by a defense system designed in the 1980s. Now let's talk about Zircon, because this one's actually interesting from a technical standpoint. Unlike Kinzhal, Zircon is a true hypersonic cruise missile using scramjet propulsion technology. It reportedly reaches Mach 8 or Mach 9, has a range over 1,000 kilometers, and can be launched from ships and submarines. That's genuinely impressive engineering. The problem? Russia can barely produce them. Their defense industrial base is struggling with corruption, sanctions, component shortages, and the general dysfunction that characterizes Russian military procurement. Western analysts estimate Russia's ability to manufacture Zircon missiles is extremely limited, maybe a few dozen per year at best. Compare that to the thousands of cruise missiles Russia launched in Ukraine, and you realize Zircon is more showcase than actual capability. There's a reason Russia used Zircon exactly once in combat. They fired one at Ukraine in 2024 for what was essentially a very expensive publicity stunt. When you've got limited missiles that cost tens of millions of dollars each, you don't waste them on routine strikes. You parade them around, you use them for propaganda value, and you hope the psychological impact is worth more than the actual military utility. Then there's Avangard, the hypersonic glide vehicle. This thing is mounted on RS-28 Sarmat-1C BMs and supposedly travels at Mach 27. That's insane speed. It's designed to evade missile defenses by maneuvering unpredictably during re-entry. In theory, it's the ultimate strategic weapon. In practice, it's a nuclear deterrent platform with extremely limited inventory. Russia's not going to use Avangard in Ukraine because it's designed for end-of-the-world scenarios, not tactical strikes. It's strategically important, sure, but tactically irrelevant for the kind of warfare happening right now. Here's the fundamental problem with Russia's entire hypersonic strategy. They designed these weapons to defeat American missile defense systems and restore strategic parity with the United States. That's a Cold War mindset applied to 21st century geopolitics. They spent billions developing missiles that could theoretically penetrate defenses protecting Washington, D.C., but they didn't focus on the practical, scalable systems needed for sustained operations in a grinding conventional war. Ukraine doesn't need to defend against Avangard, they need to defend against nightly drone swarms and cruise missile barrages. And Russia needs cost-effective, mass-producible strike weapons to maintain operational tempo. Hypersonics are neither cost-effective nor mass-producible. Russian media loves to tout how many MiG-31K aircraft carry Kinzhal missiles. You know how many they've actually converted to carry them? About 10. 10 aircraft. That's not a strategic capability, that's a boutique weapon system for special occasions. Meanwhile, they're burning through cruise missiles and drones by the hundreds every month because those are the weapons that actually matter in sustained combat operations. And this is where Nightfall enters the picture and changes everything. Looking forward, Nightfall represents the future of missile warfare more than Russian hypersonics do. The trend is toward mass-producible, cost-effective, operationally flexible systems that can be deployed in large numbers rather than small quantities of exquisite, expensive platforms. We're seeing this across multiple domains: cheap drones, swarms versus expensive aircraft, loitering munitions versus traditional artillery, modular missiles versus specialized systems. Nightfall fits that paradigm perfectly. It's good enough to be lethal, cheap enough to be expendable, and simple enough to be produced at scale. That's what modern warfare requires. Russia's hypersonics are the opposite: too expensive to be expendable, too complex to be mass-produced, optimized for scenarios that don't match current operational realities. China's paying attention. They're developing their own hypersonics, but they're also investing heavily in mass-producible conventional missiles. They understand that quantity has a quality all its own when backed by adequate accuracy and reliability. The United States is somewhere in the middle, pursuing both hypersonic development and conventional systems. American defense procurement is still too slow and too expensive, but programs like PRSM, Precision Strike Missile, show movement toward more affordable, more producible systems. Britain's Nightfall might be the wake-up call the West needed. proof that rapid development timelines, aggressive cost targets, and focused requirements can deliver capabilities quickly enough to matter in ongoing conflicts rather than future hypotheticals. So here's the bottom line. Russian hypersonics are impressive engineering achievements that don't actually matter as much as the propaganda suggests. They're expensive, limited in number, and getting intercepted by systems designed decades ago. They're solving problems that don't exist in the current conflict. Britain's Nightfall is less flashy, but it's solving the actual problem, giving Ukraine sustainable, cost-effective, long-range strike capability that Russia can't counter and can't match economically. It's being developed faster, produced cheaper, and optimized for real-world battlefield conditions rather than propaganda value. Who wins? Nightfall. Not because it's faster or more advanced, but because it's more useful, more sustainable, and more strategically impactful. In modern warfare, that's what actually matters. Russia's discovering that you can't win wars with a handful of wonder weapons when your opponent can field hundreds of good enough systems that do the job at a fraction of the cost. That's the lesson of Ukraine, and it's the lesson Russia's learning the hard way. If you want to stay on top of these kinds of defense tech developments and geopolitical analysis, subscribe and hit the notification bell. We're tracking this stuff in real time, and there's way more coming. Drop a comment. Do you think hypersonic missiles are overhyped, or is Russia just using them wrong? And what other Western weapons programs do you want us to break down? Let us know. Check out our video on Britain's Dragonfire laser system for another example of UK defense innovation that's changing the game. Links in the description. Until next time, stay informed, stay skeptical of propaganda from all sides, and remember, in warfare, practical beats perfect every single time. See you in the next one.